Hello, welcome again to Business Immigration Online. Let's discuss a little bit in a kind of exercise the H-1B that we talked about and certain other visas that are somehow related to it and have some overlap with it, and to see what are certain consideration to have when we think about those visas and how to differentiate one from the other in certain situations. That might be helpful if you're an HR person, need to understand what the rights and obligation a person on any particular visa have with regard to your organization and what the organization have to do. Why do we need alternative? Indeed, the H-1B would be a very suitable visa in many situations, but it has its own deficiencies. First and foremost, the numerical limitation that makes the visa for most employer um, very limited in terms of when you can start, how you can start, and in terms of chances of getting the visa to begin with. So it's hard to rely on this if you don't know if you're even going to get it, and if you're going to get it, when it's going to start. Definitely sometime in the past. So if you get a number in April, your person will not be able to start until October at the earliest. Also, specialty occupation, the definition, as you saw, is not extremely broad. It is open, but it's not extremely broad, and USCIS has interpretations that limit the number of occupation that may qualify. So many occupation might be um, in a such that do not qualify for H-1B, whether you think they're professional or not, or specialty or not. If they don't meet the definition as it's seen by USCIS, H-1B might not be the right way to go. There is some time issues with duration, limited time for admission. If someone reaches the maximum on other visas, H-1B might not be an option. So that should be looked at either in other circumstances. How to decide when you want to see if you have options, you have to look at the particular circumstances of the case. So, in order to understand what might be a solution and what can be scratched. So, if you have a person who seemingly qualify for H-1B, but there is no quotas, then H-1B is not a great option for you. Is the employer cap exempt? That might be a strong incentive to explore the H-1B in a more extensive way because, again, it is a visa that can solve or can fit quite a few situations, but is not always available unless you're cap exempt. Um, Certain nationalities have beneficial treatment because of their individual treaties with the United States, namely Chile and Singapore that have the H-1B1, Australia with their E3, and Canada and Mexico with the TN. None of these visas is exactly an H-1B, but many of them, most of them have quite a bit of overlap with H-1B, as we saw. There are special occupations that only allowed under certain visas. Nursing, as we saw, for example, is one profession where USCIS hold to the position that a bachelor degree is not required, and therefore the basic nursing professions do not qualify for H-1B in the eyes of USCIS. However, NAFTA allows for nurses to come from Mexico and Canada and work in the United States. So that might be something to look into. Um, then, in some situation, when you actually look at what the person is going to be doing that you're talking about, you might find out that the person is really undergoing training with intent to continue for a subsidiary abroad or with an affiliated company, or just in order for the company to have the opportunity to host someone from another country that they hope will contribute to their diversity and to their personnel through the international through the interaction with international people. So, if that's the situation, you might want to look into the training visas that we discussed to make sure that you are making available or thinking about things that best address the exact purpose of what you need the visa for. In some instances, the nature of the job that suggests that a certain visa is the better alternative. It's very easy to see that if you, as an employer, see that you have seasonal every year in the summer, or one all of a sudden you have a peak load because of unexpected circumstances, um, some kind of a one-time situation, you might want to consider the short-term H-2 visas, H-2A if it's agriculture, H-2B if it's not agriculture, in order to see whether that might be a solution for you for that particular problem. So, um, for all these things, you have to know the basic differences and the different criteria of each visa. What does it allow and what it's not, and what it requires in order to make someone eligible. So pay attention also if training visa again might be an option if what is actually being done is training, whether on the job or not. It might be suitable for a training visa. Remember, these are not work visas, but oftentimes they are suitable for on-the-job training. If you have more than one option, you're lucky. Most people don't, or in many situations you don't have. When you have that luxury, the rich man's problem, you might want to consider what are the long-term effects of that visa on the company or on the person, whether the 2 years home residency of a J1. Maybe if you are training someone for 2 years, you have to consider that later on, if it's H3, they might not be able to get H-1B if you have plans of hiring them, or if you develop a plan to hire them later. Obviously, if you intend to hire them at the beginning as employees, don't go to the training visa. It's not intended for that. However, if you're training someone and the training period is fairly lengthy, things might change in the middle. And if the intention changes or circumstances changes, you want to make sure that you keep certain doors open if you can. Oftentimes, it's not a possibility. So, again, it's important to look at the whole picture and see because, again, sometimes there are alternatives, and sometimes things that look good on first sight might be not so good when you actually start to dig in and figure out what is going on there. This is just a comparison table, basic comparison table. Of course, it doesn't cover everything, but it shows a basic characteristic of each of those visas that we talked about in the last couple classes. So um, you can see that they differ in the provision that they have in the ability of a spouse to work, the annual limitation, whether there is a dual intent, which might be an issue in certain situations, um, whether extension are allowed, what is the duration, and who is it for. So um, I urge you to have a look and see and learn where to find the characteristic and specifics of every type of visa, because this is something that is done over and over. It's very helpful to understand the principle behind every type.